Hello and welcome to the Bucket Lister podcast. Join your host Keith Crockford along with special guests who have travelled the world, here to share stories of their adventures and plenty of inspo to add to your bucket list. Now, let's get into today's episode.
Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the Bucket Lister podcast. I am your host Keith Crockford and today I am recording this on the 7th of January, and it's my first day back in the office after the festive break because I have been away taking some time out and having a lovely time with my family, which has been really nice. I hope everyone has enjoyed their festive break and not too down and gloomy to be back at work. But hopefully you have got something to look forward to in 2025. And that is the reason for this very short podcast today. I will not be keeping you for too long, but it is about 2025 and what it is you're up to and what it is you can be up to. And I've come back today to lots of emails, as you always do, lots of people asking questions about trips and where to go and what to do. And it's lovely to hear that people are thinking about getting things planned in 2025. I know lots of people have already got their trips booked for 2025. Lots of people are super organized and have their trips booked for 2026. And it will only be another couple of months before we have our 2027 dates at the Bucket List Company released. And it's really funny, actually, because normally our 2027 dates come out on Boxing Day. And this year we thought we'd mix it up a bit and put them out a little bit later because actually we didn't sell very many 2027 dates in January last year. So we thought we'd just put it out a bit later because it didn't really make too much difference. But we've had so many inquiries for people wanting to get their 2027 dates in the diary and asking us when we'll be launching them. So unfortunately, you're going to have to wait another few weeks before our 2027 dates come out. But today, I'm going to be talking about where you should be going in 2025. And obviously, in terms of trips, there are seasons for certain trips. There are trips that you need to book a long way in advance because, you know, permits and flights get booked up and those sorts of things. And that's one that I want to talk about is not really for 2025, but actually the beginning of 2026. And that is if you are thinking of doing a Chile and Easter Island trip, you do need to be considering that quite a way in advance. Flights get booked up for Easter Island very, very quickly. And we have got our date going out beginning of January 2026. And there are still spaces on that one. And obviously it is a very expensive trip. And, you know, it is a long way away and it costs money to go to Easter Island. And while you're going there, you might as well discover Chile as well. So booking it a year in advance gives you a year to pay for it, to break it down into monthly payments, which is great. But at the same time, it means that you get the flights. There are only, flights do not fly constantly to Easter Island. They are only a few times a week. There is only one flight a day. And when that flight is full, that is it. So if you are thinking of doing a Chile and Easter Island trip, then think about that for beginning of 2026. 2025 wise, though, we've got some of our trips are already full. Some have got a few spaces left. Some have got a few more spaces left. We've got a gorilla trekking trip going out in February that is already fully booked. We've got one later on in the year that still has some spaces left on that one. Again, permits and things like that are very, very difficult to get. So getting the right permits on the right days that you want booking it well in advance is well advisable. And we've got one set to go out in August 2025. If you want to head out gorilla trekking, it may be that you want to leave it for another couple of weeks, because you'll be seeing plenty of footage from our gorilla trekking trip that's going out early next month. So if gorilla trekking is on your list, then keep your eyes peeled in a couple of weeks' time, because I'm sure there will be lots of photos and lots of images going out for that one. If you're thinking about Nepal, then probably, the season starts off in around April. So if you're thinking Everest Base Camp, if you're thinking Annapurna Circuit Trek, Langtang Trek, those style of trips, obviously the season starts in April. We still have some spaces on those earlier trips. But I imagine now, thinking about training, getting yourself ready for it, you're probably more likely to be thinking of the autumn season, so September, October, November time. And again, we've got spaces across those trips. I'm leading out our first Annapurna Base Camp trek, which is a trailblazer trip in November. That's still got spaces on it. I'm so looking forward to doing that one with a group. I did it such a long time ago that I am so looking forward to going back to Nepal, because I never made it to Nepal in 2024. But like I say, I'm also looking forward to going and doing the Annapurna Base Camp trek. Great trek for anyone that's thinking of the next step. So maybe you've gone and done a Mount Toubkal or something like that. The Annapurna Base Camp trek, shorter trek than the circuit trek, shorter trek than the Annapurna circuit trek. So, and again, it's an up and back trek. Doesn't go as high. You kind of the maximum height you'll reach on that one is about 4,100 meters, so lower than Toubkal. But again, it is a lovely trek to go in explore. And like I said, I'm leading that one in November. So if anyone fancies a trailblazer trip, and for those who are unaware of our trailblazers, that's when we offer the first trip we run at the Bucket List Company. We do it at a discounted price, so it's generally a couple £100 cheaper than our standard treks. And actually, I'm saying that's in November. It's actually in October, end of October, that trip is. So if heading out and doing the Annapurna Base Camp trek is on your bucket list, going and seeing the Himalayas, not having to trek as high than you would do on the circuit trek or an Everest Base Camp trek, then maybe consider the Annapurna Base Camp trek, because that is such an amazing trek to go and do. Toubkal, we're running those again, spring, autumn time. Such a great trek. A lot of people start their bucket list journeys with a Mount Toubkal trek. And we've got spaces in April, we've got spaces in June, we've got spaces in September. And yeah, we've sold out on our bucket list of plus trips on our Toubkal treks for this year, but we have got space on bucket list of trips for Mount Toubkal. And I think, if I'm right, we have still got some spaces left. If you're looking for a adventure very soon, then I think there are still some spaces. Let me have a quick check while I'm on here now. But yeah, we still have some spaces on our winter Toubkal trek as well. So if you're thinking of heading out 1st of February, not long, if you've got a week off and you're looking for something to do, then we have got spaces on our winter Toubkal trip in February. So if you're getting bored already of being back to work and you're looking for something to do, then maybe a winter Toubkal trek could be the one for you. And then likewise, we've got our Sahara Desert trek as well. We've got one of them heading out the same time, 1st of February, on same as the Winter Toopcow Trek, or we've still got some spaces left on our Bucket Lister Plus trip, which is heading out on the 15th of November, which you'll then have the amazing guide Dave leading you on that one, our desert man as Dave is. So we had some great feedback from that trip. That's just come back last November. The group had such an amazing time. And obviously if you've listened to the podcast before, you've heard Dave and myself talk about the Sahara Trek and how much we love it. So go and check that one out. If you love your trekking, don't want to climb mountains, then the Sahara Desert Trek could be the trip for you for 2025. What else have we got going out in 2025? Now, Peru, going back to talking about when the good times to go is obviously if you're doing an Inca Trail trek, permits need to be booked, and they are selling out super, super fast. So it's very difficult short term, distance wise away from the trips to get Inca Trail permits. We have got some later on in the year for the Inca Trail, and we can get permits for those ones. But if you're interested in a Lares or a Salcantay trek in 2025, then it's much easier to get permits for those. So you don't need to worry about those so much. But if you fancy South America in 2025, looking to the tail end of 2025 is probably the right time to be thinking about going on one of those trips. One trip that has been selling well over the last couple of weeks, and I've seen quite a few bookings come in for this actually, is our Gozo scuba diving trip. We've got 2 going out this year, one in June, Bucket Lister Plus trip. I'm leading that one. And then we've got a Bucket Lister trip going out in September. Spaces on both of those. And I have seen quite a few bookings for those actually come in over the last few weeks, and lots of inquiries for scuba diving for some reason this year. But if you're looking to learn to scuba dive, then potentially then this year could be the year for you. And if you want to do a Bucket Lister Plus trip, then we've got a week going out in June, which again is being led by me. And then, like I say, there's a Bucket Lister Plus trip going out in September. I also know there's a few spaces left for those that want a nice, cheap 6-day away trip. We've got our Adventure Spain trip, our Spanish adventure trip, where we do different activities over 4 days. So we do some climbing, we do some via ferrata. Last year we did some canyoning, we do some cycling as well. And those trips, we've got a couple of spaces left on that trip for June. And the advantage with that trip is obviously it flies into Alicante Airport, which means that you can generally fly from your local airport, and you don't need to travel down to London. So if you live up in the north, very easy to get. If you live in the southwest like I do, I can fly from Bristol and not have to take the 4-hour drive up to London, which is a nice way for that trip. Kilimanjaro trips, we've got spaces. We've got a few Kilimanjaro trips going out, both the Marangu and the Lemosho in 2025. Again, easy to get permits for those. So if you are thinking of Kilimanjaro in 2025, then you can get yourselves on one of those, no problems at all. Have a look at the dates and see what suits you. If you listen to the podcast before, you'll know that I've said, June and September are great times to go and do Kilimanjaro. So if you're thinking of Kilimanjaro, check out the dates on those ones. We've still got some spaces left at the end of the year on our Great Wall of China trek. We've still got spaces left on our K2 base camp trek going out. There's still a couple of spaces left on that one going out in July. And we've still got some spaces for anyone that wants to go out to the Maldives for our Real Maldives trip as well. So there's plenty of options there for you. If you are thinking about booking a trip in 2025, head over to the Bucket List Company website. Obviously, there is trekking trips, there is diving trips, there's whitewater rafting trips, there's cultural trips, there's safaris. So there is something there to suit everybody. And obviously, as we've said so many times before, like if you are a solo traveler, then that is what most of the people who are on our trips are, solo travelers. So you can get on there, no problems at all, and meet like-minded people and just have a lovely time. So don't let that put you off, because I know that a lot of people, that's a major concern. And as soon as they get to the airport or as soon as they get in country, that kind of disappears, and they kind of, suddenly realize that, why didn't I do this sooner? Anyway, that's it from me. I'm heading up to London at the weekend for the Adventure Travel Show. If anyone's in London over the weekend and heading to the Adventure Travel Show, then come and say hello. I'll be up there with Dave, and we'll be up there for the weekend answering all questions adventure travel. But that's it from me this week. Hope you have a great first week back at work. Well, as great as it can be anyway. But I'll be back next week with another episode of the Bucket Lister podcast. But until then, thanks very much. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bucket Lister podcast. Be sure to click follow to be alerted for next week's episode. For more travel inspiration, check us out at www.thebucketlistcompany.co.uk or follow us on socials. See you next time.